The Digital Circles Podcast, giving a voice to Northern Ireland's business network. Brought to you by Private Label People, with your host, Paul Mooney.
There are many things that I love, and a glass of wine on a particular occasion or two is certainly one of them. However, I'm by no means a connoisseur. One man that is this week's guest, David Mason. David runs a series of wine tasting evenings locally and can fill from a fountain of wine-based knowledge when it comes to the grape. Hopefully this chat will give you some insight into what you should be looking for when choosing a bottle from the menu or your local off-licence. David, you keeping well?
Absolutely, fantastic.
Good to have you here. It's great because you've came during the time of a day where Saintfield is a crazy place. School's getting out, traffic chaos, but you got here, so thank you. I appreciate it.
A sprawling metropolis. Yeah.
Absolutely. But no, look, I am excited. I'm trying not to give away that I do like a glass of wine too much, but I think there's many of the people listening in will very much appreciate a good glass of wine, red or white. How did you get into this? What brought you to starting the wine tasting nights that you do?
Well, basically, my previous career, I was the restaurant manager in the Boathouse in Bangor. Okay, and it was a fine dining restaurant with the focus on wine pairings and tastings and the like. And around March last year, unfortunately, it was one of the restaurants that went out of business, that ceased operations. And so after that, I was offered a role within one of our suppliers, Neil Wines, and I decided, right, okay, I'm going to take that, because I was getting all sorts of offers from different places, but I didn't particularly want to go back into that restaurant environment and go to something where, I wanted to be able to do something that was more me, and I was looking at all these restaurants closing all around the place. I wanted something where my job security wasn't dependent on anybody else, just to create different sort of streams as such, so to give myself more security. And also, I didn't want to go somewhere and be like, do you want chips with that? I'd been out of that environment for a very long time, and I just didn't see myself going there.
Okay.
There's fantastic restaurants that do that, but I didn't want to for myself. So, yeah, whenever we left and I started working for Neil Wines, I was doing deliveries, doing the shop, doing all sorts of different things, the occasional helping out with tastings and the like. And some of my friends are in restaurant and bar trade, and they have their quiet times too. So we were talking just about what we can do to kind of draw people into their business. And I was like, well, I could do this. So it started off in Dummigans in Portaferry, and Mary and Cahill there are very good. And they're like, right, okay, we have a decent Monday, but it dies early.
Okay.
The Monday club is very much a thing, and so we're like, right, okay, we'll do something on a Monday night. We'll pick a theme every Monday and we'll do it every month. Okay, and we'll just make it, everybody knows what they're going to expect, and we'll try and create some sort of community there where people feel as if they can come along, try different things, and just enjoy it. And I get that sort of hospitality buzz that I wasn't getting after all that time out of it. So that's what we done, and the first one was a great success, and everybody loved it, and they booked tickets for the next one. They're like, and since then, we were just kind of refining what the offering was.
Okay.
The first ones, it was like, yeah, okay, we'll have to do food. And that basically was me doing a trolley dash around Lidl, and I was like, right, this isn't going to work, because for a start, that's very time consuming. And secondly, it's just not what we're going for. So we found a partner to do the food for different events and all. So we've got Lynn from Big Cheese Belfast, and she supplies the foods to the different events. So that takes that hassle out of it, and I can just focus on the wine. And then we got other places asking us about it too. So we went along to, I say we, because my daughters kind of think of it as their thing. Okay, so it's like, it's not yours, it's ours, because they help.
Okay.
with certain things, mainly designing posters and the like. Do this, do that.
Brilliant.
Right. So that's why we say we. But yeah, so then we went on to Cloughey, to the caravan park there. And the idea is, let's go to places that don't normally do wine.
Okay.
Because our wine tasting is very different. Okay. We're not going to stand there in a shirt and tie and basically lecture you. The idea is that the places I go to, they tend to be a wee bit rowdy. They tend to have lots of crack. It's much more about your night. You know, everybody's enjoying it. And from the venue's perspective, I operate, as I think of, as a one-stop shop. So it's not a case of, if we do a wine tasting, right, we're going to have so many wine glasses, you know. And these are places that maybe sell 6 or 7 glasses of wine a day. You know, it's not a big part of their market. So it's like, right, okay, I fill the boot, I'll bring a couple of 100 wine glasses and just take them away when we're done, take all the crockery, everything that's there. They don't need to do anything.
Okay.
And like if the number's too many for me to do myself, I'll bring somebody along to help. So it's all about creating that one-stop shop and trying to do it in such a way that everybody benefits. So the likes of the bar or the club, what they'll do is, like, generally I don't do the likes of a reception drink. So you don't come in and get straight away handed a glass of champagne. The bar has to get a chance to actually sell something.
Good. Yeah.
Okay. And rather than do like sort of quite large glasses, focus on doing more wines and maybe more expensive wines, but smaller amounts. So if people are wanting that fluid, you know, they're wanting to buy a drink, they can do that. And then that gives the bar a chance to actually do something, so they get something out of it. Because they're not going to keep getting me back again and again if it's just getting a load of people sitting in their back room, getting blocked.
Yeah. And
nothing for them.
Basically rented a room from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there has to be something in it for them. And then like we just keep, new venues just keep coming online all the time, you know, just always looking for ones that don't typically do this, you know, and at times when people wouldn't typically do it, because I look at the venue and go, right, what are you looking for from me? When is there a dead time for you that I could do something? Mm-hmm. So for example, Rice's in Indulge.
Great bar.
Yeah, great wee bar. And they do a fantastic day. So I go there from 5 o'clock to 7:30. And then after that, they've got live music. You know, so that's a fantastic way to spend a Sunday.
You get them all ready to go. You get them oiled up and then they're ready for the music coming off.
And the next thing you know, they're on to their Guinness. And in the meantime, Rice's are getting people there that don't normally go. You know, they're getting introduced to a new crowd. And yeah, same with the likes of the White House Inn in Cloughey. You know, it's a caravan park and golf club, but it's got a public bar and restaurant. But because it's known as being the golf club and the caravan park, people from outside it don't tend to use it. So what they want to do is they just want people to get in and use their restaurant. Okay. So I do there on a Friday night. So what we do is it's quite a late one. It starts at 9 o'clock. So they have their dinner service. So lots of people book in, have their dinner, and then sit on and have their wine night. And then that gives them just that extra duration of time. And they get people going, right, well, we'll go on a Saturday. No, we'll go on a Friday because we can do that as well. Yeah. You know, and then they get the people that would normally get on a Saturday, so it builds up that night. So it's about looking at the business that I'm working with, seeing how we can benefit them, you know, and then I kind of slot in with that. And then we just kind of work it between us as to what we think is going to work for their crowd.
That's excellent. And it's great that Dummigans give you a start like that and that give you the confidence to push on with it. And it's been rolling nicely for you.
Let's face it, we're all winners. For your chance to win fantastic prizes from our rolling monthly competition, just head on over to digitalcircles.click/give or follow the link in the description.
It's a good idea from a bar's point of view, because some of the bars now maybe only open Wednesday to Sunday, some of them are open all week, but Fridays, Saturdays are traditionally your probably two busiest nights in a bar. Sundays maybe can be a busy night as well, but it gives them another thing to put out there for their clientele base to say, oh, like, do you know what, it's a Wednesday or it's a Tuesday, but I don't mind because this is on and I really want to go to it. So it works well for them. And, you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because people are still willing to go out and spend on entertainment and on that hospitality experience. But what they're looking at is they're not just looking to go out and have a bog standard meal and a bog standard glass of wine and pay a fortune for it. You know, like they're curating their experiences a lot more, and they're looking for something more interesting. You know, and we kind of try and do it in such a way that we keep the price to a level where it doesn't have to be a special occasion going out. You know, the idea is that people book every month, you know, that make it a regular thing that they do, you know, and it's fantastic because it's like, right, okay, next month, I've got people that have booked for the next 3 events, you know, 3 months ahead.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's what you want as a business. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
I noticed when Rice's, just to use them as an example, when they put it up on their social media, some of the comments they get and the interaction that they get straight away is really, you know, they're inundated almost. So that's great for you. Your name's out there. It's great for the bar as well, and it gets them. It's something that you're doing, but it's bringing the bar into a different audience also. There's more people seeing it.
Absolutely, and especially for a bar like Rice's, it's a very long established bar, and it's a fantastic little bar, but it's one that it isn't the most visible one in ours. You know, like there's much more shiny, glossy, high-profile bars. You know, and it's for me, it has that authenticity, and I love doing I think of them as the wee old man pubs. You know, and one of the things that I really make an effort to is that the people that normally go to them pubs, that they don't feel that we're coming in and stealing their pub from them.
Okay.
You know, so the likes of Dummigan's is a very similar vibe, you know, and you come in and sometimes you go to these places and they're like looking at you and they're going, oh, there's a wine thing, this is going to be incredibly pretentious and overpriced and all. And then after you've done the first one, you know, and if maybe overheard you or maybe if there's a wee bit extra, you know, you're here, try this, you know, and you kind of include them a wee bit. Okay. You know, like they can become some of your best advocates. You know, they'll come in and there'll be like a visitor coming into the bar and they'll be like, here, do you know we do wine nights here?
Very good.
You know, and it's funny because it's not the people that I would have expected to actually advocate on your behalf, you know.
Yeah. So what's the crack then? Somebody purchases a ticket, I take it from the bar usually, and then they come. What do they expect when they come in through the doors? What should they expect?
Well, there's 2 different types basically, right? There's ones that are run directly through the bar. Right, and they tend to work better where people don't know me so much personally, you know, where they know the bar. So, for example, Rice's, you go and you buy the ticket direct from the bar,
okay,
and then that's where it goes. For me, for the ones down the peninsula, I do through Eventbrite.
Okay.
So people buy their ticket. Now, on the night, right, because you've got a list of names, everything's paid, you're not chasing anybody for anything, so the money's out of it. Right, there's no hassle. You can just welcome everybody as if you're welcoming them to your house or whatever, right? And they come in, they sit down, and it takes a wee bit of time for everybody to get settled in. You know, usually they'll get themselves a wee drink from the bar in that time, and we'll have the food out. You know, so they'll all go get themselves a wee plate of food, and they'll sit down. And once they're all there, I'll introduce the first wine. So we'll get the first wine. Generally, we try and start with some bubbles. So, like, for example, if we're having the likes of our classic French night, we'll have a proper, good quality champagne. Okay? For the likes of our Santa's Wine Flight nights that we did in December, because sometimes we like to be a little bit conceptual.
Yeah.
Okay? And you started there and you had 2 really good quality. One was a champagne, one was an English sparkling rosé. So you could do a side-by-side comparison, you know, and it just sets the tone. You know, they know that they're not getting something that they're going to get down in their local offie for $7.50.
Okay.
You know, they're going to get the proper stuff. And And that's what we do. And we take it from there, and we try and cover generally about 7 different styles of wine.
Okay.
Okay. It might be more, because there might be like a couple of comparisons, and we'll tend to count that as one, and they'll get a smaller glass of each. But just so they're not getting like 3 Sauvignon Blancs and 3 Cabernet Sauvignons, it's a varied style.
Okay.
Okay. And sometimes that works. Sometimes it just means that they don't like everything. But you know something? That's fine.
Absolutely.
You're much better having some with a really strong reaction than having 6 where they all go, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because then that gives that point of discussion, and because they're getting different ones, it doesn't really, you don't have to like them all.
Yeah. Well, it's good because I like wine, obviously, hence why you're here. But I like red wine, I like white wine, I like Prosecco, I like champagne, I like all that stuff. But I definitely not a connoisseur. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm looking for. I usually go into the off license and go, that bottle looks nice. Mm-hmm. So it's good for people to know, to have a strong opinion on what they like and what they don't like, because it helps them, when they're shopping in the future, or they're in a restaurant and they're looking on the menu. Is there anything in particular that somebody should look for when they go into, say, an off license and they're looking at different bottles of wine? Is there anything you would recommend that they would look at the back of a bottle and say, I heard David talking about this, maybe I should try this one?
Well, it depends on what they like.
I thought you were going to say the alcohol content.
Well, that comes into it as well, but not as much as you would think.
Okay.
What people tend to look for is things like oak, and people sometimes they don't realise how much of a difference that makes to their enjoyment of it until they try the likes of an oaked Chardonnay beside an unoaked Chardonnay.
Okay.
And they can taste them both side by side, and that's where the side by side comparisons come in really handy. Other things like a really useful one is whenever we do a Spanish night, we love to have, like, you're standing in front of your Riojas. You've got maybe 4 Riojas on the shelf, all look exactly the same, maybe slightly different label, but and they're different prices. But it's like, right, which one's for me?
Okay.
And it's really good to have those, take a taste of each side by side, explain to them why they're different.
Okay.
And then it gives people that real world of things. Right, okay, this is the one I like. Just because it's more expensive doesn't mean it's better. Just because it's cheaper doesn't mean I should avoid that. Mm-hmm. And it gives people that sort of practical thing as well, of whenever they go into the shop and they're making their choice.
Don't forget, for your chance to win fantastic prizes from our rolling monthly competition, just head on over to digitalcircles.click/give or follow the link in the description.
You get some people like myself, probably who are a little bit ignorant sometimes, and they think you have to spend a certain amount on a bottle to get a good wine. Do you subscribe to that at all, or is that just nonsense? Does it depend on where it's from and all those types of things?
It depends a lot on where it's from, but in general I find it goes in steps.
Okay.
Right? Like if you're getting a bottle of wine less than a tenner, like so little of that is actually going to make the wine. Like so much of it's duty, so much of it is actual packaging cost. Like very little of it is actually left for producing wine. Okay, whereas you move up to like £13, the winemaker is able to spend a lot more time, a lot more money on the actual wine that you're getting. So that's the first step. And then you get wines that are they have to be kept for quite a while, for them to be ready. And keeping them for that length of time obviously costs money. And that's where the next step is. Beyond that, it really does come into your personal taste. Like one of the favourite pairings that I do is like we'll quite happily bring a bottle of Vineyards Barolo that costs maybe 250 quid in a restaurant. Right? And we'll open that beside a bottle of Langhe Nebbiolo, right, from the same winemaker, just 3.5 miles down the road. The hill's not as steep. It's the same grapes, same winemaker. Okay, that's the only difference is the distance and maybe how long it's kept in the barrels, and it'll be 20 quid.
Okay.
Right, and you can open them side by side and give them to people and be like, right, there you are. You can find out, for my palate, is it worth spending that money? And for some people it is, you know, and they're like, fantastic, that's brilliant, I will buy that and have that for that occasion.
Okay.
And other people will be like, no. Yeah, you know, and they'll discover that it's almost like finding a cheat code, you know. It's,
yeah. And whenever you're tasting a glass of red wine or white wine, are you tasting it completely different from the average person? Is there something you're looking for that, or is it just always on taste? Is it just your personal palate and how it tastes to you, or is there something in a glass where you go, oh no, that's a bit different, or that's screaming out more to me than that other glass? Is there certain things that make up a glass of wine that you look for?
Well, there's certain things that you do look for. Like you do look for oak whenever you're tasting it, you know, or you look for how fruit forward it is something really juicy, really jammy, you know. And these are things that you know, because I'm in the business of explaining wine to people. I'm looking for the ones that are the key words and the ones that they're going to sort of recognise in themselves. Whereas other people are just tasting it and they're like, right, okay. And it maybe takes a wee while to process, you know, whereas I'll kind of, before I'm tasting it, I'll be wondering if it's got this and looking where it's from and the geography of it and all, and getting a bit geeky.
Okay. Well, nothing wrong with geeky. But if you're out for a meal, you're eating something, say it's fish or it's red meat, or is there any rules that people should really stick to, do you feel, that they get the best from a bottle of wine?
Well, there's two ways of looking at it. So there is one of the events that we used to run really regularly in the boathouse was an event called Wine Wars. Okay. And what we would do is get the chef to set up a wee 4-course menu, something fairly simple and fairly cheap. And we would invite somebody from another restaurant or another supplier or somebody to come in, and we would match a wine to each course, and then they would also match a wine to each course. So as a guest, with each plate of food, you're getting 2 glasses of wine, and we would have to, you know, make your pitch, you know, and a fantastic fun night, you know, lots of banter, lots of crack, and then everybody just votes at the end, you know. What you generally found was that people would take different approaches. You're either looking for something that's going to help something move it along, you know, like where you've got like a really rich sauce and you've got a really sort of buttery, creamy textured wine, you know, something like that. Or you're looking for something that's going to contrast,
right?
You know, so where you've got like something that's quite sort of hot, you know, you go for something with a cool, crisp flavour, you know, and stuff like that, you know. So a lot, it depends on what angle you're taking, you know. To be honest, like that was part of my previous role, was just constantly every meal you were doing the tasting for it and you were selecting a wine to pair it, you know. And it's funny what goes and what doesn't, you know. It's not always what you expect, because chefs are funny. They'll kind of throw a wee hint of something in somewhere and not mention it. But whenever you're tasting it with wine, that'll be the one that just pings, you know.
Right,
so yeah, tasting's the key.
Excellent. And just the phrase "wine wars", that sounds like Hillsborough Main Street on a Saturday night. But yeah, there's been a few wine wars up and down the country, but
you know, they did end up being a fairly rowdy night, you know, because you're getting 8 glasses of wine and 4 plates of food, you know. But yeah, they're fantastic, and hopefully we'll get some of them going again, you know. And you know, it's just organising the things, you know.
I can imagine, that's it. That's the key to it. It's getting it all organised, and it takes a bit of effort and lining up with chefs. And
it's a lot easier to just organise a wee wine night where it's like, right, okay, that's the date, that's where it is, right, go,
come along,
and you just do it.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
And a big part of wine tasting probably for you is there a wee bit of storytelling goes on with it? Do you get involved in a bit of crack, or?
Oh, very much so.
Okay.
Very much so. To be honest, much more than your typical wine tasting. I would kind of lead with that. Good. You know, so for example, in well, Christmas, I mentioned, we done Santa's Wine Flight. And basically the idea was that you started off with an English sparkling wine, and that was you buzzing away, bubbling away at home, because that was the closest we could find. Okay. Right, and that's you going to bed before on Christmas Eve, and then once you're sleeping, start off in New Zealand and follow Santa around the time zones. So you had your Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. We moved over to Lebanon there, because that's you're in the middle of the Holy Lands, up into Slovenia, and then over into France for the St. Nicholas de Bourgueil wine, and then following the Christmas story into the New World, into Uruguay, into Chile. And then after that, Santa's done his work, he's just relaxing, and he's got a nice little port as he makes his way home. Okay. So that was our Christmas one.
Brilliant.
For February, it was focusing, January we done Poor Until Payday, which was basically, we figured everybody's going to be doing either dry January or they're going to be skint from Christmas.
Okay.
So let's do some really cheap nights. So Poor Until Payday, it was 15 quid. You're getting a load of wine, focusing on all the really entry level stuff, and going, right, something just because it's cheap doesn't mean it needs to be nasty. Let's find some really nice, reasonably priced wine, and we'll bring some charcuterie in there and give everybody a cheap night out in January. And it was one of our most successful months, which is strange whenever you think hospitality dies in January. And February was a fun one for storytelling, because February, I figured that people would be buying their tickets in January. So I didn't want to bring the prices up straight away. And Portuguese wines are fantastic value.
Okay.
So I was able to kind of reach a halfway point there. And the Portuguese ones, because they had lots of really interesting history with them. Mm-hmm. So you're bringing in like pirates, and you're bringing in journeys across the Atlantic for the slave traders, and you're bringing in the Galician Wars and all sorts of stuff that has an impact on how they do their wine. Okay. So it was a real storytelling one. And then St. Patrick's Day in Rices, we done Irish Connections.
Okay.
So that included things like the wine geese wines, like going back to the Battle of the Boyne in 1690.
Right.
Whenever what happened was the retreating soldiers, they went to Dublin and they got on the boats that were going back to Bordeaux, and they hid in the hold. They were labelled on the itinerary as wild geese because they couldn't check it, because if you open it, they'll all fly out. And so they all went to Bordeaux, and then they they started working with all these fantastic wineries in Bordeaux. And now if you go and you buy the most expensive Bordeaux's in the world, they'll have like at least half an Irish name. You get stuff like Leaville Barton and stuff like that, and that's where that comes from. So there's a lot of storytelling involved in it.
There really is. It's stuff you just told us I didn't know any of, which is fantastic. So that's brilliant. And people who are going, it's great when you're having a glass of wine. It's sociable, so you're socialising with other people, but then also somebody like yourself talking and telling people these things. And no, it's great. It sounds like really good crack. The Christmas one, by the time you get to Santa, I'd say you're well on. But getting through all those.
The Christmas one was so much fun. We did about 5 of them.
Okay.
And it was great because those ones where you're not sort of tying it to a country as such, it means that you can try all the weird wines that nobody else does. Like I do quite a few events for U3A in Bangor.
Okay.
And their next one is going to be the Irish wines. So I'm going to take the guys from there and bring them down to Llewellyn's Orchard just outside Dublin.
Okay.
And use their wine. Okay. It's a winery just outside Dublin Airport.
Right. Okay.
So we're going to use some of their wine for their tasting as well.
Fantastic.
So yeah.
Well, it's obviously something that people will be very passionate about, and lots of people, when it comes to wine, have strong opinions on it. Is there any bottles of wine that you would see people drinking, very established wines that are really well known? I don't want to mention any names, but is there any that you look at and you go, oh, you're not drinking that, are you? Or are you pretty open to just think, well, if you like it, it's okay?
You know, something like, I think that part of the problem with the wine world is gatekeeping, right? And it's about people making opinions on certain wines, and it's like, right, okay. But, you know, something that at the end of the day, it's there as a product to be enjoyed. And people have drank wines in different formats for thousands of years. Like, if you were watching the Roman games in the Colosseum, you weren't drinking the best of wine, right? You were drinking some cheap vinegar, literally vinegar, watered down, and only the emperors were drinking the likes of your Falangina and your Falernum.
Okay.
You know, so it was all, but that served a purpose. Okay. You know, and same wine does serve a purpose now. You know, of all prices. You know, for me, you've got stuff that you're going to drink just because you're like, oh, what a day, right? Just give me something. And for many people, that'll just be like, right, just give me something, this colour. And it doesn't really matter what it is, you know, it just needs to be something to feel fairly safe with, right? But then they'll have wine for whenever people are coming to dinner, and then they'll have wine for that special occasion. So it's the same with whiskies, you know, like they tell you that a whiskey drinker needs at least, he needs 3 bottles of whiskey: his everyday whiskey, a Saturday night whiskey, and a special occasion whiskey. And wine can work the same, you know, so you're not going to get people going in straight away and buying the really good bottles of wine. Their first wine that they try is going to be something fairly cheap, you know. So if you cut that out, then you're losing all these people going in.
Okay. And have you any particular favourites? A list of favourites that are your go-to bottles of wine? Okay. I want to say Buckfast, number 1.
Buckfast Reserve. Well, one of my, probably I love Lebanese wine. Okay, so Lebanon have some of the oldest vineyards in the world, going back 3,500 years. And one of my favourite ones is one called the Nine, and it's from a vineyard called Shadow Heritage. And what I love about it is it's got 9 different grapes in it. So it's the 9 classic red wine grapes of the Bekaa Valley, right? And they're all grapes that, if you're looking at French wines, you'd recognise these names, but they originated in Lebanon, okay? Like Syrah is a town in Lebanon, you know, and that's where your Shiraz is. But what happens is whenever you have it with food, because like each of these is used almost like a kind of seasoning with different food, different grapes kind of come to the fore, and the wine tastes completely different.
Okay.
You know, but like I love the weird ones. You know, the ones that don't do what you expect them to do. Sweet fizzy reds like Malvasia from Balbiano, gorgeous. You know, where you're like, try this, and people are thinking, right, this is no right to taste anywhere near as nice as it does. California Viognier, like from McManus Vineyards. You know, you smell the empty bottle, you'd swear there was French martini in that glass.
Okay.
You know, and just, yeah, all sorts.
There's lots of options, and as you say, wine goes right the way back for a long time, right back to Roman days, and it's changed so much. And I know you work with a Neil Wine as well,
yeah,
and it's fantastic off-lays. I'm not sure if anybody's ever been to Groomsport and went in, but it's a really lovely setting, actually. When you go in, there's an open fire, and there's just case after case.
Absolutely, and there's like the tasting room out the back, and you know, it's a fantastic space. And there's space that you can actually stand and have a look around, rather than being in a shop that's quite cramped, and you feel you're kind of in everybody's way. You know, it's a great spot, and I have to say, like, that they've been very supportive of me whenever it comes to doing my events, you know. So
I think you've really explained well how you differentiate from a lot of other wine tasting evenings. It's a bit of history and a bit of crack, and also you're giving out people things that they maybe won't like.
Yeah.
So that's all part of it. That's what you do, and it works.
Oh yeah, like for with the Christmas ones I mentioned, we had the Slovenian wine. It was Vino Gross Gorka, and it is a real love it or hate it one, you know. And it's like, right.
Is it one of those ones where you take 2 drinks and you get used to it? Is it?
Well, for me, I loved it.
Okay.
But like lots of people just couldn't get over it. But like the ones that did like it, they couldn't get enough of it.
Right.
So you're better than that, than everybody just ignoring it, really. But yeah, there's a lot like that. It's like Sunday's event past there in Rice's. We had a Pinot Noir, and in Rice's, the wines need to be punchy. You know, they like a winoceros. You know, they like something big and bold that's going to charge right at them.
Love
And
that. Winoceros.
and I give them just the lightest possible Pinot Noir, and it went down like
Not impressed.
yeah, not impressed at all. But I knew that was going to be the case, you know. So it was like, look, you know something, we're covering Australia wines and New Zealand wines. This is a grape we need to cover, but I know you're not going to like it.
Okay.
You know?
Well, it just reminds them.
Yeah, you know. So it's like, yeah, you kind of have to have that contrast as well.
Great stuff. And when's your next one?
Next one, what have we got coming up? We have German and Austrian wines.
Okay.
And that is going to be in Portaferry on the 13th of May, Cloughey on the 10th of May, and then we have Rice's are going to have the Italian wines on the 19th of May, and on the 20th of May, I have U3A with their Irish wines.
Okay. Very good.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm sure if anyone is listening and they fancies attending those, they can get them on Eventbrite or go on to the likes of Rice's social media. And
Yeah, absolutely. Or even just contact me direct through Meso's Wine Nights on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll point you in the right direction.
excellent. And one last question, David. If you're going home tonight to have a nice meal, one bottle, would it be the one from, was it Libya? Did you say?
Lebanon?
Lebanon, sorry. Would it be that with a meal of, what would you go with?
Oh, I don't know. Like, let's see, because I have a vegan in the house, which makes things very awkward. so we'll pretend that she's not there, and we'll go for
Take her out of the equation.
We'll go for a Uruguayan Tanat with a steak.
There we go. A Uruguayan Tanat with a steak. I'll have to try that now. But
Fantastic.
yeah, I'm guilty of going down the Australian, New Zealand route, and maybe Portugal and something Argentina and Chile, but I'm going to have to delve deeper into those more untested waters, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
come along to a night.
I will, absolutely. Definitely, it's going in the diary, and I'll really look forward to it, actually, because I was excited to have you in. It's been great having you. So thank you so much, David.
Yeah,
thank
no
you for all
problem.
your
Thank
insight.
you.